Welcome to episode 54 of Cougars on Cougars. There's kind of a lot of different stuff going on this week. First of all, this is not Jess.
I'm not Jess. Sorry to disappoint.
This is Carson. Jess is homesick. I am also sick, but less sick than Jess, fortunately. And so we're at my place instead of Jess's. So the set got a makeover. Our co-host got a makeover. Like
a little downgrade, but we'll work with what we got.
We're gonna keep some things the same, though. We're going to start with our quote of the week. So, Carson, why don't you read that for us?
The quote of the week comes from Nelson Mandela. It always seems impossible until it's done.
Why might we have chosen that quote? I can think of something that seems impossible this week.
I can think of something on Thursday that, if we read this to the guys before the game, that, hey, I'd believe it. It always seems impossible until it's done.
It's true.
Let's get it done.
Let's get it done.
Thursday.
All right, speaking of basketball, we're going to get started here with coaching from the couch. Then we're going to talk with Peter Woodburn from the Slipper Still Fits. Got a lot coming up in Talk of the Town, so that's kind of what we've got coming up. But, yep, we're going to start with coaching from the couch. So not 2 wins this past week. I got ahead of myself.
Optimistic.
Just like I feel like everyone else got ahead of themselves before the Santa Clara game. Yeah, they were already counting it as Coach Rose's 299th win.
That's right. Yeah, this is
bad karma, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So a win and a loss, a 76-68 loss to Santa Clara, and then an 85-77 win over LMU. Let's start with what went wrong, so we can end on what went right. Why don't you start first with what you think went wrong over this past week?
So the first thing that comes to mind is probably the same as with a lot of the viewers. Good old turnovers. The turnover bug was super prevalent. I mean, it's not something that has been one of our strengths to say the least throughout the year.
No, and we play up tempo, so that's to be expected.
Yeah, we're generally going to average more turnovers than probably the national average. Right. We're averaging about 13.6 before this past week. It's going to go up quite a bit. Against Santa Clara, 18 turnovers and 11 of them in the first half.
And that felt really bad. 18 felt really bad.
Yeah, so 18, we're like, all right, well, at least we won't hit over 18 again. And then come Saturday in LMU, which was a win, thankfully, but we still had 22 turnovers against LMU. And normally you don't win a game like that, but we had some things that factored in that helped us out. But 18 and 22 turnovers, averaging almost 21 turnovers over 2 games, was not a pretty sight.
For me, there was a stat that Greg Gabrell tweeted out. He said that BYU is 0-4 this season when allowing 40% or more from the arc. And Santa Clara, this was in the first half, made 8 of 18, which is a lot for the first half. And I know that three-point shooting has been a problem. I know for certain one of the 0-4 games was UVU, where they shot the lights out. That was bad. We'll put up the shot chart here. They were just lighting it up from beyond the arc. I think we had like 2 shots from beyond the arc.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a few more, but it looked bad.
Yeah, in that Santa Clara game, it felt like whenever we were about to go on a run, we'd hit a couple twos, a couple little dunks or layups, and then they'd go and drop in another 3. So we were scoring 2, they'd score 3.
Threes.
They played lights out.
I don't like that math.
Yeah. So
they shot 45% from 3, and we shot 20%. Let's move on to happier times. What do you think went right this week?
So speaking of LMU, I mentioned a few things that we did better than usual. Rebounding, we out rebounded them handily. 46-32 was the final count. We had 46. Eric Meek always comes in strong. Yoli has been on a tear with rebounds.
He has.
He had 8, which is not anything superstar, but it was solid, especially because LMU had a lot of big guys down low, and so to see Eric in there, Yoli in there, and then kind of surprisingly, but almost not anymore, Elijah Bryant in there with pulling on 8 boards from his guard position was huge.
That is a good thing that you can have a guy off the bench that can come in and grab 8 boards. I like that a lot. Speaking of guys coming in off the bench, my thing that went right, I'm like super biased because I love Stephen Bell a lot. He's like the cutest, but he played a lot more confidently in the LMU game, and I think that made a difference because an area that we're lacking is guard depth, especially with Nick being young and TJ being young, and they sometimes don't emerge and start scoring until the second half, if we can have someone like Steven and Elijah come in and contribute to scoring, then we're going to be in a lot better shape. So Steven came in, he hit a big 3 in the first half, and ever since he hit that 3, he just looked a lot better with the ball in his hands. I know I've been noticing he looked really timid with the ball in his hands the past few games.
He kind of looked like a true freshman.
Imagine that.
Who would have thought?
So I liked that, though, and maybe it was because we were at home, who knows, but the quicker that the guards off the bench can get scoring, and the starting guards for that matter, the better. Okay, so now we are going to talk with Peter Woodburn.
All right, so it's a big week, the biggest week we've had yet for BYU hoops by far, and in a few years for that matter. But number one, Gonzaga is rolling into town, so we figured we'd have on Peter Woodburn. He runs the Vanquish the Foe, the SB Nation Vanquish the Foe account for Gonzaga, which is Slipper Still Fits. So that's at Slipper Still Fit. Go ahead and give him a follow. And if you visited that website today, you would have seen that the banner read, breaking news, Gonzaga ranked number 1 in AP poll, which is a pretty big freaking deal. So congratulations. That's what we first want to start out with.
Thank you very much.
I went through and I, calculated your win margins because I knew that you've been winning most of your games by pretty large amounts. So I'm sure you know this. 19 out of your 22 games, you won by double digits.
Yeah.
And so the only 3 that you didn't win by double digits?
Florida, Iowa State, and Arizona. So out of those victories, which would you consider the most impressive victory yet for Gonzaga?
I think out of all the victories that they've had, almost the Florida and the Iowa State games, and those are really interesting games. Those were over. I forget what they call the tournament now in Florida, the Advocare Invitational Tournament in Florida. It used to be the Old Spice Classic. And in the first game against Florida, Gonzaga played an absolutely wretched first half, and then they were able to clamp down on defense and ended up winning, by 9 points or something like that, but with a really, really good second half showing. And then they played Iowa State in the championship of that game, and in that game they jumped out to like a 20-point, roughly a 20-point lead into the second half, and then they only ended up winning the game by 2 points. So it's kind of like a flip-flop of scenarios and 2 similar things, and it was really it was interesting. Those were, I think, the 2 kind of toughest wins because it's nice to see your team gut out those kind of harder wins like that.
You gotta be tested a little bit to prove that we're legit.
Yeah, and there's always that kind of that old, I don't know if it's an actual saying, but they always say it's harder to defend a 20-point lead than a 2-point lead. And the Iowa State game showed it, and it was just kind of funny that it was just the inverse relation. One game it was the worst first half of all time, and the other game was the worst second half of all time. Right. And they still barely squeaked out both. So
that's what I think is so scary about Gonzaga is that, like I said, they can win in any situation. I think, to me, both of those ones were really impressive, and I was there in person to see the win over Arizona, which was a great game. But the win over St. Mary's, because St. Mary's is a really good team, and they're a top 25 team, and I watched that game. But St. Mary's played a great game. They were shooting well, they played good defense, and they still lost by double digits, and that is what is terrifying to me. Is that you can play your best game against Gonzaga.
You can have a great game, but if Gonzaga has a good game, then...
the first question we want to ask you, is there anyone who can beat you? Is there anyone that you're afraid of, or are you feeling pretty invincible?
I'd say that the crazy thing about this year, I think you've seen it just kind of in the churn at the top of the table. There are legitimate, you got Villanova, Baylor, Kentucky, I'm already blanking on some of the other ones. Oregon was up there or UCLA was up there for a while.
Well, there's been 5 number ones. Yeah. So
now Arizona's making a late push too. There's a lot of just really, really good teams up at the top, and I think that the Zags can pretty much match up with almost anyone. Yeah. Because this is one of the few years that they actually kind of have the athleticism to go with playing teams like Kentucky, or playing someone like Baylor. They played Baylor in their preseason scrimmage, and apparently the game was a tie. But that doesn't mean very much. It's just a scrimmage. But this is really the first time that the Zags have had both the combo of the athleticism to go with the depth on the bench. Normally they kind of had either one or the other, and were able to make do with either of those until Sweet 16, till the Sweet 16 for the longest time, until they hit the Elite Eight a couple years ago. But, they've still never punched into the Final Four either. So I think that this year is legitimately the year that they have the best chance that they'll have to make that Final Four push, possibly even a title game. But they finally kind of have all those puzzle pieces into place.
As a BYU fan, what are some things that we can look for and hope for?
Well, I think that they haven't shown it as much anymore, but the Zags, they're still kind of prone to some just some overall lapses and just kind of smart playing. And luckily they're lasting less and less. But they are a team that the defense is solid for like 95% of the game. But they go through spurts where teams can make a run really quickly, just hitting points. I mean, against Santa Clara, like Jared Brownridge scored like 11 straight points against them, or something like that. And he brought it from like a 20-point game to a 9-point game in the second half. And Gonzaga ended up winning by like 25 points just because, Jared Brownridge can only do that for so long. But I think BYU is better. Yeah. And so I think it's, but it's just really tough because they each player that they sub out, they're borderline subbing in basically a player that could start on most any other team in college basketball. So there's not a whole lot of weaknesses on the roster, and they shoot the ball well from the outside. You have great inside presence with Shemek Karnowski and Jonathan Williams and Zach Collins. I would say really the only, like, the one position that they're a little bit kind of questionable in is oftentimes, like a lot of teams are, just kind of the wing position, the small forward. And if you got a team that's got a really good kind of combo forward guard there, if BYU still had Kyle Collinsworth, they would like help them. Right. But Jordan Matthews, who the Zags normally start there, he's a little bit undersized for the position, and so I think like kind of bigger players can do a little bit of damage there. But that's only 1 out of the 5 positions, pretty much. So
if you had an Achilles heel, it would be that.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about matchups. And I mean, I think you said the name. So we've got Eric Mika, who Mark Few very kindly, we listened to an interview today, compared Eric Mika to Domantas Sabonis, which is
that's pretty high praise,
especially coming from Coach Few himself.
Yeah, right.
I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think that Mika presents any sort of problems for Karnowski? The other thing is that Mika is so much younger than Shemek. So, I mean...
Yeah, it's tough because, Eric Mika is a great player, and the one advantage that he has is he's way more mobile than Shemek Karnowski is. I mean, Karnowski's a fantastic defender, but he's huge, and so he can hold you.
I mean, he looks like Shaq. I mean, he's pretty much the same size as Shaq almost.
Yeah,
exactly. And he shows sometimes some surprising athleticism. He might like swat a ball out there, but for the most part, if you can get around him, you got there's a potential for good look at the hoop. Of course, that's easier said than done because he takes up so much space.
Yeah.
But I think that Mika, I think that where Mika is really going to be able to excel as well is right now Karnowski he's still only playing in like he's like 22 or 23 minutes a game. And Zach Collins, the freshman center.
Yeah, he's another 7-footer, isn't he?
Yeah, another 7-footer. He's amazing on the offensive end, but he has kind of freshman defensive mentalities where you sometimes see some overcommitments or just poor positioning on just poor positioning in the post and everything. So I think where Mika might be able, I mean, Collins is more athletic and Collins will block more shots, but I think that Mika, as kind of a player that has more of those like fundamentals, will be able to do more damage, not against Karnowski, but against Zach Collins.
I think one of the last things that we want to talk to you about is you're coming into the Marriott Center. I'm not sure if you've ever been to a game down in Provo. Obviously, this is a game that we're going to show up for. So the Marriott Center seats 20,000, which is by far going to be your largest audience of the season. Are you worried about home court advantage for us? Do you think, are you scared at all? That's the question.
Yeah, I am, because I think that I would say that generally speaking, the three hardest places in the WCC for opposing teams to win would be the Marriott Center, where St. Mary's play at the McLeod Pavilion or whatever it's called.
What is that place? McKeon something.
McKeon Pavilion. That's right. And then at the Kennel in Spokane. And but the Marriott Center, the difference is that outside of it, the Kennel seats about 6,000. I bet St. Mary's seats maybe like 2,500 or 3,000. Like you said, it's like a full blown professional NBA atmosphere. And the BYU fans are rabid. Yeah, and you can. It's loud. It's really, really loud. And I think that if you go through and if you look at just in general all the games that BYU and Gonzaga have played since BYU's come into the conference, there's not a lot of blowouts between the two teams. It's a lot of 1 to 2 possession victories or like last second shots. And Gonzaga is a fantastic team this year, but it's like you said, they just haven't played in that environment so much yet. They haven't gotten the away game at St. Mary's yet, and I think that it's home advantage plays a lot in basketball, and if you can rattle a team kind of out of their rhythm and really kind of do some damage, or BYU is able to build a small lead in the very beginning. Or even at any point in the game, I mean, it gets that much harder for Gonzaga to be able to try and claw their way back into it, because you got and the number 1 ranking is just the biggest possible target you could place on your back, and so it means it's just going to be that much. I mean, honestly, I almost wish they weren't ranked number 1. Not that the difference between number 1 and 3 is realistically like that much, but like it is enough that you don't need to give the fans more fuel, and that's what they got this week. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, saw today it's sold out already.
It's sold out already?
Yeah, the game is sold out.
I didn't see that.
Monday.
And to be fair, number 1 is kind of cursed this year. I mean, hardly anyone stayed number 1 for longer than a week. So, all right, well, we're looking forward to this game. Peter, thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you to Peter for coming on. We really appreciate that, and we are, of course, very much looking forward to Thursday's matchup.
Thursday.
Let's get started with talk of the town. Carson, why don't you start us off?
Okay, so first thing, big news. March 25th has been announced as the day for the spring game.
That's early.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of spring games are late April.
Yeah. That's one that, I mean, being back in Louisville after being out for a few months is always a good time.
Yes, and the sooner the better. So speaking of football, 2 boys that won't be playing in LaVell Edwards Stadium anymore, Jamal and Harvey showed up and showed out for the Senior Bowl. I know they both had really good weeks of practice. We heard a lot, especially about Jamal throughout the week.
It was nuts, and part of it is that we live in an echo chamber, and everybody wants to retweet every good thing. But it was some of the things coming out about Jamal were incredible.
Yeah, and I mean, we were seeing retweets from
big people,
unbiased observers,
legit scouts and things like that.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, North 15, South 16, which is good because Harvey and Jamal were both on South, so they won, even though it doesn't matter. Jamal had 8 carries for 29 yards, 2 receptions for 9 yards, and Harvey had 6 or 7 tackles. Thanks, Ben Criddle, for that exact number.
6 or 7, who knows?
I know at least 2 of them were tackles for loss, and he did have an interception in the end zone. They were going for 2 at the end of the game, the North team, and that's why the South won. And then we did want to show you that they wore their black at helmets, and they looked pretty good. I mean, does anything look good with that black and orange? I don't know.
Hey, they made the best of what they have, and it looked good.
Speaking of helmets.
Okay, so we got some tweets out from some football players. So Troy Warner put it out. I think TVS also put one out of the Royal helmets. Personally, I like them. I think it'd be cool to switch it up every once in a while.
I did find it odd that the players were like, why would the players be asking about that?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
You have to think that they're gonna wear them, or else why would they?
Yeah, or maybe they're just trying to pressure BYU. They're like, hey, everybody wants them.
I like the tactics.
Yeah.
Sticking with the helmet theme, because for some reason they were a big topic on Twitter last week. I don't know why.
It's off season talk. Like, what can we do to keep talking about football?
Seriously. But these were beautiful. So apparently this at JVince11 made them. You got the classic white with royal blue stripe that looks really clean.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite are these metallic blue ones. I'm obsessed with them. Carson is crushing my dreams and saying that he doesn't think we're going to wear them. But I love the shiny foil look.
Yeah, maybe it's something to have to grow on me, but
you don't like it? Too loud for you?
I mean, I don't really see it as BYU, but hey,
that's true.
Maybe we'll come along, and I'll come along too. So some of the best names in recruiting, Sports Illustrated puts out, Sports Illustrated puts out another off-season topic that you probably wouldn't hear about during the regular season, but hey. So they break recruits down into these arbitrary divisions and just kind of have a little fun with them. So we actually had 3 players make the list, and so the first one in the consonant chaos division, which is a fun one to go through and read them. So we had Ammon Hanneman, which is a mouthful.
We should have counted the consonants, but there's like 12.
Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah, no.
Ammon Hanneman. Yeah. Y'all can do it at home. Then another one. So they had a division. Sounds like a cop, which is we had Bentley Henshaw. I can just see that.
Sergeant Henshaw.
This is Officer Henshaw. Who knows? And then I think this was your favorite in the Smooth Jamz division.
It's the best division.
So we had Chaz Ayu in that. That I could see his name. Just listening to some throwback R&B coming at you from Troy. This is Chaz Ayu.
Yeah, it's pretty smooth, and he is smooth on the field. So you gotta love that, having fun ahead of National Signing Day, which is coming up tomorrow, and we're really looking forward to that. So look at that article, though. What our favorite name, though? What was his name? Your Majesty.
Your Majesty Sanders.
I can't remember what division he was in, but his name is Your Majesty.
Like Y-E apostrophe.
You think
Majesty.
BYU has good names?
Yeah,
that one wins.
That dude's a king.
New recruits will not be playing in the Poinsettia Bowl.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, I did not see that coming. I thought things were going pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Attendance was great for the Poinsettia Bowl. But Tom Homo tweeted out that, they're sorry to learn that the Poinsettia Bowl is no longer going to be played. But they understand the decision. We've come to the end of the road. Chaz Ayu slow jam style.
Kind of another shot at San Diego and what's been a sad few months for him, apparently.
Oh, you land on this one.
I'll introduce it, but I'll let Mary talk about it. Our boy Tanner Mangum. Mary thinks he should be a model.
Tanner Mangum Modeling Co. It's a Cougs on Cougs thing. It looks like it was taken probably on an iPhone 7 with that depth of field going on there.
Just right outside the Smithfield House. Probably walking towards the SAB.
Yeah, you gotta wonder who took that. But it says, feeling good about the start to this new year. Motivation and dedication levels are high.
So Taysom's still around. So we had Gabby Rowley, shout out. She saw him at Costco, and I guess she was with, I don't know if those are
her kids, yeah.
Yeah, and saw him. They yelled his name as most BYU fans kids. But they're like, it's Taysom. And then so I don't know what happened, but apparently Taysom heard him and then took a picture with him, which is
in the laundry aisle. I feel like this is like stars that are just like us in the magazines. Like Taysom shops at Costco too.
Taysom's got a Costco membership. Shout out Costco.
So relatable. They should have been a sponsor. Missed opportunity. All right. Well, we love engagement news here. And we have another engaged BYU power couple. We love BYU power couples because where do you think their kids are going to go? They better. So this is Mitch Matthews and Maddie Lyons, who played soccer.
She played this year.
Okay, I'm not sure if she's graduating or not.
She's a good one.
But Mitch said, had to go big for my little lady, and go big he did. He got a helicopter. This is a good tweet.
So so we had Todd Detmer in the Rock with us. So I work with the Rock a little bit and help to get some of these things going. But it was always cool. Last year we had Coach Satake when he was brand new.
Yep.
That was really kind of his first introduction to the Rock. And,
it was.
And really what made students love him and still do was he went and sat in the student section. So Todd's like, hey.
Oh, he didn't just sit.
He's up there dancing and going crazy. I don't know how much Todd danced, but he was definitely there, and he was going along with the free throw distractions and things like that, and he was having a good old time just reliving the glory days.
He fits right in. The football team kind of took over a little bit at halftime, especially because there were a lot of recruits there. Kalani spoke, Tanner spoke, Butch spoke. Kalani did dab, not during his speech this time, but after they showed it on BYU TV.
Yeah,
so.
I missed that. And it was cool to have all the recruits up there in the Rock too. I think there were 17 of them. And
by the cheerleaders strategically placed.
Who knows if that was strategic or not?
It was.
It definitely was. So shout out to our boy Peyton Dastrup. So he's having a little fun on Instagram, trying to get up the likes. I respect that. Shoots out a picture of him. He's probably. How old do you think?
8?
6, 7,
he's
8?
Probably 6 because he's so tall, yeah.
He's a big kid, so it's hard to determine. I was that size when I was about 12.
I think I'm that size now. So we've got a pregnant Whitney. We knew that she was pregnant, but we have not seen very many pictures of her, unfortunately. She is so cute. So she said that Jimmer got to come home for 4 days. He's obviously been killing it in China. He went back on Monday. I didn't know this, but she's gonna give birth without him.
Yeah,
which sucks.
And part of it too is Jimmer's fault because his team is doing so well, and obviously he's the star.
Jimmer, score less points.
Score less, win less, but it's really the playoff run is going to interfere with it. So the deeper they go in the playoffs, then the harder it gets on Whitney, I imagine.
We'll end with this, just by way of information.
So obviously Thursday we've got Gonzaga #1, very first time a #1 team has ever been in the Marriott Center.
Huge.
This will be the 5th time that the BOE's played #1 team, and also an opportunity at our first win against the #1 team to put a positive spin on it.
First time ever at home. That's crazy. So 4 times and the most recent time we played a team ranked #1 was 2007. So like 10 years, literally 10 years ago is the last time we played #1.
Against North Carolina, so it's been a little bit. Okay, so coming up this week, huge game Thursday.
Have they heard maybe?
I don't know. We're playing a team who's apparently really good. So we got Gonzaga at our house. It's gonna be a late game, 9:00, which is cool for me as a college kid. I don't know how easy it is for
I'm gonna have to take a nap.
And so huge, wear white.
Wear white. Can we say that enough? Yeah. Wear white. Do it.
Royal was fun for LMU. We're back to white. Wear white. Let's show Gonzaga what we're all about. And then obviously after that, Saturday we got Portland here at 7:00. Wear white to that one as well.
Yep. And if you can't make it to the Gonzaga game, that one's going to be on ESPN2. And if you can't make it to the Portland game, which I can't, that one's going to be on BYU TV.
So for our sponsors, sponsor one, shout out Space Jam. We for the Rock, we actually showed Space Jam on the big Marriott scoreboard on Friday night, kind of a little rock rally we called it. And then the theme for LMU was Space Jam, and they really made us believe that we could fly.
Gotta love R. Kelly. Our second sponsor was Ivan Drago. Yes, we know that Eric Mika is his doppelganger, thanks to ESPN. But we still hope that we get to play the role of Rocky on Thursday.
Yeah,
Ivan Drago.
Let's take him out.
May you always stay loyal to the white and blue. For Carson, I'm Mary. We'll see you next week.